What's up, everybody? Is today, and I'm asking not just you out there in the chat, but Eric and Brad, because I don't know this, right? I haven't paid attention. And, you can go to a calendar and see like 5 or 6 different, it's today or the day of, but have they made today a national holiday yet? Has the world been given off? Not just us, because Brazil is involved in this thing now, right? Has the world been given off to introduce the NFL season? Football is back, fellas. And honestly, I know we've had a taste so far in college, but this is the NFL, and I can't wait for tonight.
I have buddies in Arizona. It's 115 degrees there. I have buddies in LA. It's 106 degrees here. And everybody's coming together tonight. Everybody took work off. Everybody's just getting ready to throw the craziest party about 2 blocks from me at this Irish pub that they rented out. It's like this old style New York pub. We're bringing in tents to like cover everything. We're doing whatever, but it is open bar for everybody. We all pulled our money together, and it's just going to be a shit show because it's going to be 95 degrees at like 10 p.m. still, 11 p.m. And it is a national holiday. It is our holiday. It is the sport that dominates America. Obviously, the international football, we've got Mr. BLT over here.
Oh, he's got that live.
He's got that one covered for us. So the world sport, it's still not there yet, but there is nothing quite like football. When college football starts up, NFL starts up, it's now officially fall, although it feels like the dead heat of summer here.
I was just in Nashville, and it was crazy to see all of the leaves turning. I go, leaves are turning, and we're going to go watch football. Like, we were driving to a bar, and I was like, this is really football season. It was pretty sick.
So I lived in Nashville for 2 years, 2.5 years technically. I worked for 2 radio stations down there, and I lived right off 2 streets off Broadway, Church Street.
Healthy.
And it was 2 of the most amazing years of my life. And I don't regret leaving because I left for sports radio stuff, and that was just the life I had. But man, looking back, like Nashville was just amazing, truly. And this was 2008. So imagine what I missed as far as where it was then to where it is now. So you live vicariously. I did, at least through you down there. You didn't even know it, Brad, but I was with you in spirit in Nashville, man.
I don't know if I want Eytan's spirit with me, but
you don't. You want to have spirit.
Things I prefer.
Exactly right. If you're hanging with me, have spirits next to you. That's going to ease the burden here. I can't wait, man. At some point, Eric and I are just going to show up and be like, "All right, Brad, we're here. We're in Florida," and be
where
like,
"Where we betting? Where we going?"
Yep, just like show up one day because Eric has like infinite DFS, just barely married money. And I can't wait to get out of the 2-kid wife house because they can't wait to get me out of the house. So we're gonna figure this thing out here by all means. Look at that, Marlo G liked and subscribed. Now Pacheco or Kelsey, TD, love you for that. Thank you. Let's throw it out here at shanderbets, at Eric Lindquist, at Mr. Brad Thomas. Of course, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe exactly like Marlo just did for the GoldBoys channel. Make sure you're following at OddsShopper on Twitter. All right, real quick, either or Pacheco or Kelsey. I'll let you guys. Brad, what do you think? You take a stab at it first for Marlon.
Man, I'm going to go Pacheco. It's always good to get the running back. He's going to get literally the bulk of the carries there. Travis Kelsey I've just been more down on Travis Kelsey. Good red zone target, obviously, but when you think about who's likely to score, a wide receiver or a running back who's guaranteed to get the touch, and you're going to go with Mr. Isaiah Pacheco.
You said likely. It was a beautiful juxtaposition to this game that we have before us. I'm excited for it. Now, between Pacheco and Kelsey, I'm going to go Pacheco as well. I'm going to be shorting Kelsey tonight, so rip me.
Rutgers finest. Love it. All right. Yeah, Nashville is absolutely Sahil on there developing. It's awesome to see. Trust me, somebody who lived there and watched that happen initially. Let's go through it. Nothing's changed. Football's here. So we're going to look at 3 bets that we have. There may be a futures play on the board. Hell, there may be a college football play on the board. You never know here. We'll be back Monday, 3 o'clock Eastern, Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern. You know the pattern now. So make sure that you set that notification. All right, Mr. BLT, why don't you get things going here with your first play?
Yeah, I'll go with my first play, and I'm going to go Eagles over 10.5 wins here. I know there's a lot of people been down on the Eagles, down on what's going on in the locker room there, but I like what the Eagles did in the offseason, and I'm not talking about Saquon Barkley. I like getting Quinyon Mitchell, like Dijon, even though I don't think he's a factor that much in the defense. I was really excited when I placed this bet about Devin White, but Devin White's not playing game one, so that doesn't matter. But I really do think that, an offseason was good for the Eagles. They went on a terrible skid, but a lot of that outside of the locker room issues, a lot of that had to do, it looked like Jalen Hurts was a little banged up, right? So good. You bring in Saquon Barkley, take some of those red zone carries out from Mr. Hurts. So I went with over 10.5 wins. I didn't go crazy on it, but I did think it was worth the unit.
All right. So, Eric, real quick, I'm going to abstain from this because not only am I locally here in Philadelphia, but as a lifelong, and I'm 45 years old. So, one of the earliest memories I have in my life is rooting for this team. I don't know in the sense of like I would tail Brad if I had to make a choice, but
Easy schedule too.
yeah, like looking at the schedule, I'm a little concerned on the other side. Like see, I don't even want to bring up points because I don't even know if I'm analyzing this or if I'm just looking at it like a paranoid Eagles fan and I can't get away from it. So
No, it's the same thing. The reason that I have a New York Giants +1.5 ticket in my life and money line ticket, I have both in my life.
Right.
Went from 1 to 1.5, and
yeah,
I
well,
can't I don't even look at the glasses like half full or there's no glass. Like there's just not a glass there.
Right.
So it is what it is. I totally get it. I'm with Brad here. I do think that they've made a lot of improvements. Their schedule, you bring that up here as well. I think we had talked a couple of months back too about like who's the most likely candidate who would get canned here early. Having the Falcons at home, having the Saints on the road, Buccaneers on the road, they got to get out to a hot start. I mean, they just got to hit the ground running. I think they probably will as well. I don't think the Kelsey losing your center is as important. But not a 1-for-1 swap by any means. I mean, the guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's really fun to watch in the media. But overall, I think that Jalen Hurts will still have some goal line touches. I think he's still going to be extremely efficient. And he's my highest rated quarterback of the entire year from a fantasy perspective. I don't think that we're going to see him lack any opportunities there. If Jahan Dotson is anything, they haven't had a wide receiver 3 there since 1948. So I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see him run around too.
The only thing that I would say really about this team, and it doesn't even reflect too much what I think about the win total, because especially with the 17th game, to get to 11 should not be that difficult with a division that's clearly split between the two. But just here, again, like I would rely on you two in your respective spots for local stuff. The one area that I do think Kelsey, outside of the obvious, which is he's clearly calling everything from coverage and he's up front and he is the quarterback of the line. So, yeah, we'll see how that gets replaced. This isn't the first time that somebody like that has left the team and now there's a gap. But I tell you, he's a shield. And when stuff goes wrong, things start to seep in. The Eagles are known for leaking shit. All of a sudden, Carson Wentz goes from like this saint who gives to charity to one of the worst human beings on the planet, right? So my point being is that's not going to happen to Hurts, but you lose that shield. I think, yes, Brad, ultimately we're all on the same side here. So you bring up the Eagles, I have to at least rep and have some talk. And Eric, I think it's just deflecting anyway to talk elsewhere besides his Vikings. So this is not going to be a Minnesota play for you, right?
Yeah, no, Brad already had to see me on my Vikings tilt and rant earlier this week on Kyle's show. It's not my best look. I can be a professional. I can be, I hate Minnesota sports so much. And my parents being born where they were, I will never stop being mad at them until the day I die for being a Minnesota sports fan. But it's okay. We have things that we can bet on. And that's why I like betting so much, is that I can win stuff then. And that's what we're going to try to do with Derrick Henry receiving yards. We've got a weird one on us for Thursday night here. I'm still working on some of my rushing projections. And so these are all 3 receiving projections from me, where I'm in love with all 3 of these plays for week 1. We're starting with that Thursday night football play, though. I absolutely love getting to Derrick Henry, getting to that over right now, 6.5, 7.5, wherever you get it. If it's inside of -120, sweet. I think he gets a lot of the third down work. And that's really what it comes down to for me. Is I don't see any way around Derrick Henry being on the field in like 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 with Justice Hill. I know that people are saying he's automatically going to be it with Keaton Mitchell out. No, he's not. I don't think so. He's a lifetime special teamer who couldn't get on the field and, had to get on the field from a passing perspective in come from behind scenarios at the tail end of last year. And then Rashid Ali. I don't know even who that is, but he was a 5th round draft pick by the Baltimore Ravens, and he's going to be their 3rd active running back. Nobody else. And Derrick Henry is, he had a role in Tennessee, but they had Tajay Sharp. They don't have Tajay Sharp on the Baltimore Ravens right now. And I think Tajay Sharp's a very talented back, despite them needing to go get Tony Pollard. And it made sense to have him on the field in some of those 3rd down spots. I don't know if Baltimore does the same thing, but I'm willing to find out when I have this double the receiving projection based on 2 catches or just short of 2 catches. It is plus money on the over 1.5 catches. If you're looking at that, I'm probably not going to dip my toes in that, but I love 1 catch being able to get there for you. King Henry, I think 3rd down, he might be there auspiciously more than people are expecting.
I like that. I looked at it. What number did you get? I looked at it at 7.5. I don't know what it's moved to.
6.5 minus 120 is what I bet it at.
Nice.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Yep. Nice job there.
And also it's available on Underdog. If people, if you have the Underdog in your state as well, I've done a number of cards over there where I'm rotating that one in as well. I think it's still at 6.5, and it's the only pick'em site that has it at 6.5 still currently. And that's, if you're playing a 3-pick card, that's basically minus 122 is basically your break even number on that. So if you want to put that in a 3-pick card on Underdog, which is the ideal way of playing those, it is an awesome building block piece for Thursday night.
Nice. All right. Let me round this thing out here. This is based on something that I'm sure Eric Lindquist is tired of me bringing up because I did on our entire 55-minute pick'em show earlier today. But there's a pretty big deal going on with the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm only looking at it from one area, and that's the offensive line. Their offensive line coach passed away this offseason, was pretty damn good at what he did. They're also bringing in 3 brand new linemen. And I bring up the fact that they lost their offensive line coach because the guy that they brought in, George Warhop, is just associated in 18 years with losers, losing teams, losing against the spread, bad bottom tier offenses, offensive lines that just can't protect. So this is not a proven guy by any means. There's a lot of new, there's a lot of disruption and new, and that's not great for a team coming into it. So here's where I think Lamar takes advantage of it, and that's over 8.5 rushing attempts. Between the design runs, between what Baltimore is going to do to move the pocket, and also, look, if their offensive line is struggling, you're not just going to be able to hand things off. Granted, Derrick Henry is going to break 1, maybe 2. I'm not saying he's going to be held under wraps, but if he is getting banged around and if it is tough via volume at first, they are going to start moving Lamar. So I think due to emergency to all the way to plan, you're going to see 9 carries, and I can get that at plus 115 at MGM last I checked. So that would be me rounding things out.
It would be dumb for anyone to just assume because they got Derrick Henry, they're going to neutralize one of their most deadly weapons on the field. Like, that's just asinine to think. And I think a lot of people have that inclination to bet his under. And it's like, you just can't assume that. Like, why would you limit yourself in terms of weapons? So I like that number.
Love it.
Awesome. All right, let's run it back here real quick. Got to tell you about what's going on across the board and how you can learn more and really take advantage of everything going on. GoldBoys.com. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're following at OddsShopper on Twitter. We'll see you in 30. With code GOLD. Deposit a minimum of $10 and get your first bet back at BetMGM up to $1,500. Shot of you using code GOLDBOYS to promo help at goldboys.com to get your first month free. 21 or older, gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Let's run this sucker back at Eric Lindquist, at Mr. Brad Thomas, at shanderbets. Make sure you're following along. You can catch more of Brad's plays over at GoldBoys.com. You can catch more of Eric and myself over at OddsShopper.com. So let's hit it. Let's run it back. Brad, we go back to you, man.
Yeah, I'm going with Northern Illinois team total under 9.5 points. Up against Notre Dame in South Bend. Notre Dame coming off a big win of Texas A&M. What was impressive was Notre Dame's defensive line had their way, right? Their secondary we knew was going to be strong. That secondary held Connor Wegman under 100 to 100 points, 13 yards by Texas A&M. 13 points by Texas A&M. This is going to be a game that suits any kind of under, whether you take Notre Dame or you take Northern Illinois, because both teams are going to find their success in the run game, and they're going to want to slow the game down. The difference between a Sam Hartman or a Riley Leonard is Sam Hartman, even though he played a different style at Notre Dame than he did Wake Forest, he's still the guy who tries to extend the play down the field that sometimes can ultimately cost your team in turnovers, short field situations. That won't happen with Riley Leonard. When things get tough for him, he's going to try to take off, whether it be 1 or 2 yards. To him is better than a sack. That also bleeds more time off the clock. I think this game's going to go by pretty fast. I don't think Northern Illinois score twice. If they do, it'll be a field goal, then maybe a field goal late for some team motivation here. But I like Notre Dame. I think a lot of people are really high on Notre Dame, and rightfully so.
All right, so that number again,
probably the most impressive week 1 win aside from Boston College, maybe. Is that even impressive? Are we going to talk about Florida State being impressive?
I'm sure we can talk about Florida State for sure. I don't want to just overlook what Brad's doing here, because I'm trying to think. You're right, especially because Notre Dame, and we saw that with Leonard, you're going to be able to run the football with multiple people here and take some chunk time off the clock. I think looking at it, and I'm asking you, I don't see really many pathways to where Northern Illinois is getting past that, right? So you're looking at either a touchdown or simply 3 field goals.
You're looking at something fluky happening.
Exactly.
You're looking at a far right tail outcome, I think. And what's the juice on that?
-115.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
See, that's phenomenal. The thing. And here's the thing too, which is, while anything can happen, I'm not saying it can't. The likelihood of a fluke play in this case for Northern Illinois is probably something that gets them 60 yards on an interception return or a punt return, not necessarily in the end zone. And that's where I think the matchup plays, to where Notre Dame holds them and you get that field goal. So that's probably like the 3rd field goal. I bet you're sweating that, right? Like 6 points, and then you're in the 4th quarter and you're just hoping for something where it's just like, it's not just like lag or a mental mistake or whatever. I think that's a great play, because at 9.5, I wouldn't be shocked. You think that closes at 9?
I think it closes at close to 7.5.
It's Thursday. Okay, yeah. I don't know why I thought today's Friday. I'm Eagles mode. All right, what you got, Lindy?
The joys of not having kids yet. I feel refreshed, ready to go on this week 1 NFL.
I did not have a single gray on my face before these kids, and now my oldest is 3 years old, and I look like I'm a disaster. I'm a disaster
anyway. This is going to be a disaster. Ray McLeod.
Ray.
Wow. This to be one of my favorite plays. Again, I've done all of my receiving charts. I've basically gone through every single team, and I have data sources that I really, really like, that I kind of put my own stuff together on. And I didn't think too much about who was going to play the slot from Atlanta, because I just thought, there were a number of different options of guys that they had pulled in the offseason where, it's going to be, maybe we'll try to move Drake London around and we'll do some different stuff there, but he's primarily just an out wide guy. And then, they go out and get Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney basically split time between the slot and out wide. He'll be the guy. No. Ray McLeod won the job out of nowhere. And part of that is Rondale Moore going down. But even before Rondale Moore went down and he's out for the season, he's on the injured reserve, all done. I think they said Ray McLeod was the guy that they trusted the most to be there. And if you're going to play the slot with Kirk Cousins, we've seen Jordan Addison, we've seen a number of guys I'm not going to say Jordan Addison's going to have a major down year, but I am down on Jordan Addison relative to what we had last time around. Now that he has Sam Darnold as his quarterback, Kirk Cousins is going to spread the ball around. He is a very underrated, somehow still over the course of like a decade career, an underrated quarterback. I think our Vikings would have looked pretty good had he not tore his Achilles. We had just started hitting our stride. And you'll see a lot of tight end talk. Kyle Pitts apparently with the hamstring is just fine. It was really, really overhyped, but maybe there's a limitation there. I doubt it. But Ray McCloud, this thing has been bouncing back and forth between 16.5 and 18.5 wherever you look. FanDuel, it's still sitting at 16.5. I got this on Underdog at 16.5. I feel pretty good about it at 16.5. I don't see a way that Ray McCloud isn't on the field a lot, and they don't want to go to any of these like 12 tight end looks. I mean, you have a McVay Truthers taking over the offensive coordinator duties there, and they're going to play a lot of 3 wide receiver personnel with Pitts out there on the tight end position, London out wide, Mooney out wide, and it sounds like Ray McCloud in the slot. And you look at Jackson and Porter Jr. and some of the other pieces, Fitzpatrick will be roaming there for the Pittsburgh defense, but I'm not nearly as high on them this time around. They're still going to have a pass rush with Watt and Highsmith, but what does that open up? Opens up Ray McCloud out of the slot. So here we go. I have no idea how I landed on this. I have no idea that Ray McCloud was going to be my favorite play of week 1, but here we are. I have him for 38 yards. So here we go.
Hey, and you're getting a break, massive break at 16.5 for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So Ray is in the middle. He's got the middle square right there, the Alice square. And that's something fantastic. Let me go here, round this thing out. It's not going to be a big one because we already talked about the game, but you've got players coming out, and I think this is just the cherry on top. This is not the foundation of it, but Darius Slay, Devontae Smith, do you honestly out there think that they're the only 2 human beings between these 2 professional organizations that have a problem with traveling to Brazil to where their families can't come and everything around the protocol? Of course not. This is a massive inconvenience. I don't give a shit either way who you care about X, if you like the new guy or the old guy. It doesn't give me, I don't give a shit, right? But my point being is that from a player standpoint, this is a massive disruption. You've got a new coordinator on both sides of the football for the Eagles. You've got a new coordinator on the defensive side for the Packers. There's just going to be a lot of figuring things out. And you're not even doing it at either one of these teams' home stadium. So while you may see some offense and you may see a 10-3, or you may see a touchdown or 2, even in the first half, I don't think it comes through sustainability. I think it comes through a broken play. Somebody makes a mistake. Maybe somebody gets behind coverage, but I don't think it's through methodical. Each team is just working the ball in some sense of a shootout. I got it at 51.5. Shout out to the OddsShopper crew who's still there because they got it too when this thing opened. It's at 49.5, I believe technically is where it is. I'm fine at 49.5. I know we've moved through 51, but I'm staying under in this football game to Friday night.
I'm so bad at NFL totals. I couldn't give you an answer and be like full of confidence either way. I like to bet player props and sides. Totals, I'll leave that for those with the calculators.
Let's see how it does.
I'm so with you. Baseball totals, I got drilled for years. And this is probably the second year that I've ever turned a profit in totals betting them in MLB. It's just a disaster. Same thing with NFL. Had a disastrous totals year last year. I'm totally with you. I am a props and sides guy. That is what I am.
Well, we'll see how this year goes because I love totals. So I may either be on an island or I may be tailing your player props as my third or fourth or second or third bet. It's just going to be in like this in the far right. It's going to be like C. Lindy or C. Brad if my totals are gone to shit. All right, let's run it back here. Brad, what do you got? Final stretch.
Iowa money line, and unfortunately this line has moved to like the minus 160s, minus 165s. I wrote on there, I hope it stays put. I don't feel in good conscience to tell you to bet a money line that's 30 cents different, 35 cents different. So I'll give you a player prop. I'm going to switch it. Sorry, straight. Don't hate me. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. You can still get over 17.5 rushing yards. Caleb Williams in a good spot here where I think his number's just too low to start the season. Last season in college, he averaged 11.8 rush yards per game. The season before that, 24.5. The season before that, 40.5. What's important to note is USC took 33 sacks last year. their offensive line was really horrid. And in college, that number comes down. That number comes off of your rushing total, which is one of the dumbest statistical rules because a sack should not count against you. But whatever. Caleb Williams, major improviser. And I think in his first game, especially, he's going to want to succeed and want to do well, extend plays, put on a show. So for me, Caleb Williams, I think that you could play. I think there's still some DraftKings numbers around plus 180 for 25 plus rushing yards. I went with 16.5, but there's some 17s. I think it's DraftKings as a 17. Go ahead and hype your tools up where they can find the lines at. So
nice.
Over it, OddsShopper. It's a beautiful thing. Brad knows how much I love this play. We're on the exact same thing here. I went through quarterbacks there. That's kind of generally where I start. And then I just kind of did all the receiving stuff. But Caleb Williams, yeah, you go to college. The big thing for me is like in college, you look at rushing props and people actually cite them on Twitter. And I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like you get negative yardage for sacks. That's the end of the day. You get negative yardage for sacks. And you had a pretty terrible offensive line. I'd say both seasons at USC, maybe 1.5 seasons at USC. Would you say that? Is that fair to say, Brad?
Say that one more time.
Caleb Williams, do you think, how was this offensive line play at USC?
Horrible.
There you go. And I think Caleb Williams, when you don't get the negative yardage for sacks, it's going to look really, really good in the box score in a couple of these games. He's going to have a couple 50 plus, 60 plus type rushing spots. Is it right out of the gate? No, but this is sub 20 right now. It's way too low.
Understood. All right, brother, what do you have?
We're going to round it out with Najee Harris. So I'm going to the other side of that Atlanta game as well. Jaylen Warren, hamstring issue. This is the 18th of August that went down, that they played that week 2 preseason game. Najee Harris started with the starters in both of them. I don't think that that's something that anybody would question, but Jaylen Warren's known as the third down back, the scat back for them. The guy who, at times it was 55-45 his direction. Other times 55-45 Najee. You saw pretty much split carries as you go down through Pro Football Reference on both of them throughout the entire season. Jaylen Warren with a hamstring injury. I don't know how I feel about this week 1. He said he's 100%. I never believe the player. I will just see it when I see it. Yeah. You gotta just prove it to me. And when you're talking about 7.5 for receiving yards here, 7.5 again. I know that these are not everybody's favorite markets, and sometimes books love these because it's like, oh, he either gets a catch or he doesn't, and it seems like a 1 or a 0. And when you start talking about that, and you can factor in the juice on both sides, they make money. So I know that it doesn't seem like the most advantageous market, but just hear me out. If you get to like 65, 70% there, awesome. And then you go through Russell Wilson. The last 6 weeks in Denver before he ended up getting outed there, double-digit targets to the running back position in 4 of 6. I think that this is a phenomenal spot with Russell Wilson playing behind center. Maybe something happens where he's terrible in the first half and you bring Justin Fields. It would be too soon. I think you're going to see Tomlin stick with Russell Wilson for a little while here. A couple of dump offs to Najee and potentially having Jaylen Warren limited. I doubt we see him out by any means, but limited to some extent. Gotta fire this one up again. I have this closer to 20. So it's a median projection that matters a little bit more than your mean projection. So it's going to be a little bit lower, around 16, 17, but that's still an awesome spot with 3 targets potentially to get there. Really like this play as well.
Beautiful. Yep. I know you jumped on that with me. I feel like Tuesday, right? What's today? Thursday? We got on that Monday, Tuesday.
We got it on earlier. It was 6.5. We got 6.5 minus 110, and it's 6.5 minus 114 and minus 120 now.
Unbelievable.
You're welcome for your 1 yard of closing value.
Hey, you know what though? In this case, it might be the difference, right? You never know. A swing pass gets blown up, he gets knocked back, right? Bullshit. It's the NFL. Like I will never ever flinch at any type of value that you gain if it's CLV, even if you don't believe in that stuff. Like it's the NFL, man. The most bizarre
stuff. I just think sometimes the market knows that it's going to move up over as time goes on, and then they can juice it more or make it look more appealing than what it is. But that's a different conversation.
Let's look at this here. Let's look at this. Are we all you can just put this up because I'm curious. Are we all not just on this show, but in real life, are we all on the same side here, which is Carolina anywhere from 4 to 5?
Yeah.
I am
Right?
now. I'm gonna
Okay,
find a
okay.
number after
I
the
didn't know
show.
that. I didn't know that. I didn't. I thought you were already on it.
No, not yet. I just said I want to hear you two guys talk through it because obviously Carolina, they can't be worse than they were last year. It'd be pretty
No,
difficult to imagine.
it's not that. So, and also, I was going to say, if you were on it, then we can just end real quick, rapid fire, and each give like our favorite reason, even though that's rapid fire, right? It would be for
You and
why you
Brad.
like it. But look,
You.
for me, this is just a matter of two things. One, start on New Orleans side. I don't like anytime you get north of 3.5. Granted, it's much better when they're on the road, but even at home, when you have a combination of Carr and Allen laying heavy points, that's something that should at least alert your radar, right? Your radar should at least go up and say, all right, why are these guys who are notorious at blowing those types of larger spreads, infamous, if you will, why are they laying this much? And I think the other part of this is, and I was talked into this. Shout out, I think it was the Walter football thing I was doing here on OddsShopper. But whatever the case may be, my biggest hang up has always been with this team, one person and one person only, and that's the quarterback, right? So if you can either take a leap or if you can look at certain things that are benefiting Bryce Young, starting in this game specific, all of a sudden the Panthers are no longer a laughing stock. All of a sudden the Panthers are a team that can battle and can compete. And I'm not saying they're going to win 10 games, but what I am saying is that they have a ceiling now of what, 7, 8, maybe even 9, if in fact you're getting consistent play. Because Young's not going to be asked to carry this football team. We know that he's just going to be asked to make some throws. So at 5, and I grant, 4, 4.5, 5, I understand that's the range. You're not losing a ton either way here, but it's too much. It's just too much for Carolina to be getting this much in a game in which they can easily, and I know that that's a tough word to swallow for a lot of people, but they can cover, not win outright so much as they can cover a 3-point spread. So if I'm going to get anything on top of that, I'm going to jump on here, knowing that I have a running game, a defensive unit, guys around Young. It's a coaching staff that's another year here around it, at least. I don't know. It seems like it's too much.
Yeah. First, you guys talk about the divisional game. Also, when you have low scoring games, defensive battles, unless you think one team's going to get shut out, when you're catching more than 3.5 points in the NFL, it's like stealing extra points. I think that the Panthers team is only has room for improvements, right? They bring in Deontay Johnson, just another target for Bryce Young. They bring in Canales, who has worked with quarterbacks in making them maximize their potential. Literally, they turned Baker Mayfield from an outcast to a dude signing a contract extension. And the Saints, when the Saints blow teams out, it's because they have massive defensive performances, getting positive field position battles, like and turnovers in the red zone. That's just not the Panthers, right? The Panthers,
All right.
and I think it's a lot of them being safe. They don't turn the ball over a ton. And then when they're in the red zone, they're not very aggressive, and I don't think they're going to be under Canales. Canales, if you've seen anything from him at Tampa Bay, is he's going to be the kind of offensive mind that says, we're in the red zone, we're leaving here with something, right? Like Denzel Washington says, I'm from round the way, I'm leaving here with something. They're getting at least 3 points because they're maximizing every trip because they don't know when they're going to come back. And for me, I like that approach. Carolina Panthers defense is definitely underrated. Imagine how much better their defense would be if their offense stayed on the field more last season.
Right.
So getting the 4.5 points is just absolutely crazy. I have to take it. I didn't even talk about the statistics of first week underdogs covering. Like, it's an insane clip because naturally what happens is people see favorites, especially recreational bettors. They start driving these lines just because there's just so much money pouring in on favorites. But you'll start to see these underdogs come down a little bit as smart money is like, yo, this is just too high.
Absolutely. And we've already seen that, at least as a reflection of where we are from 5, 4.5, 4. You're not losing anything right there. And just both being on it. Lindy's there as well. So look,
I'm there now.
You are now. Save this screenshot. We got a couple of things to come back to. We'll do that on Monday. We'll look at how we went, and straight we'll either circle it or put a big X through it. And we'll see how the three of us did, both individually and collectively, at Mr. Brad Thomas, at shanderbets, at Eric Lindquist. You can follow more from Brad over at goldboys.com. Eric and I over at OddsShopper. Hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you've subscribed here to the Gold Boys community on YouTube, and follow at OddsShopper on Twitter. Straight, thank you as always, sir. Fellas, anything you want to get out on the way out?
No, I don't have anything special coming out this week. We are on a little break for soccer, so no power rankings this week. Yeah, well, actually, you know what? Go on Spotify, go on Apple Play, go type in Bet the Edge and listen to yesterday's episode. I'm one of the co-hosts of the college football show. It dropped this morning at 6 a.m. If you want to get college football bets that hit at the same clip, just go ahead and jump on Spotify, Bet the Edge.
Love it. Lindy, anything you want to get out, or we're good?
It's week 1. It doesn't mean that it's the only week that you can bet football. Just bet according to what your bankroll is. Don't get nuts. Don't shoot your wad week 1. We got a lot of football the rest of the way home. Can't wait.
I guess I shouldn't end with I have 51 bets out there, but that's fine. I don't. I'm just kidding. That's only 30. All right, we'll see you.
Man.